Buckingham Palace has long stood as a towering emblem of discipline, tradition, and unshakable order, its grand gates gleaming under the warm afternoon sun as the Union Jack flutters gently overhead. To the thousands of tourists who flock there daily, it's more than just a building, it's a living piece of history, a place where time seems to slow, and every detail, from the polished uniforms of the royal guards to the rhythmic calm of the courtyard, reflects centuries of British resolve. On this particular day, the scene was picture-perfect. Laughter echoed through the crowd, cameras clicked, and the air buzzed with the excitement of visitors soaking in the grandeur. The palace, as always, radiated an aura of control, a fortress where chaos had no place, where every moment was choreographed to uphold its legacy. Yet, beneath this serene surface, an unspoken strength simmered, embodied by the guards who stood like statues, their stillness masking a readiness forged through relentless training. It was a day like any other, steeped in the quiet power of tradition, until a single unpredictable act threatened to unravel it all, testing the very order that Buckingham Palace so proudly represents. On an otherwise ordinary afternoon at Buckingham Palace, where the air hummed with the cheerful chatter of tourists and the distant sounds of London streets, a subtle shift began to ripple through the crowd. At first, he was just another figure among the thousands, a man blending seamlessly into the sea of visitors, unnoticed as they laughed, snapped photos, and marveled at the palace's grandeur. But something was off. He wasn't there to admire the architecture or capture memories. Instead, he moved with an unsettling purpose, his lips twitching in soft, nonsensical whispers, his eyes darting like a predator sizing up its prey. A woman nearby nudged her husband, murmuring, "That guy's acting weird," but he shrugged it off. Maybe just another quirky street performer. She wasn't convinced, and soon neither was anyone else. In an instant, the man's muttering turned to motion as he broke from the crowd, charging toward the palace gates with reckless speed. Tourists screamed, their carefree day shattered as he shoved past people, knocking over a child's stroller, his body lurching forward with wild abandon. Gasps filled the air, phones were yanked up to record, and panic spread like wildfire. This wasn't a prank or a lost soul. This was a man on a mission, ranting about the monarchy's downfall, his intentions unclear but unmistakably threatening. The crowd scattered, some tripping over themselves to escape, others frozen in terror. An elderly couple stood pale-faced. A mother yanked her child back in desperation. Security fumbled, too slow to react, as the distance between the madman and the gates shrank fast. What had been a perfect London day was now a heartbeat away from disaster. The emergence of this threat exposing the fragility beneath the palace's calm exterior. Amid the bustling chaos of tourists outside Buckingham Palace, where the afternoon sun cast long shadows and the Union Jack swayed lazily above, the royal guards stood as silent sentinels, unmoving, unfeeling, their polished uniforms and rigid postures a testament to centuries of tradition. To the average visitor, they were little more than living statues, part of the palace's grandeur, there to be photographed or teased, their stillness a quirky hallmark of British pageantry. But beneath that stoic exterior lay something far more formidable. These were soldiers, trained to a razor's edge, their discipline honed through years of relentless preparation. On this fateful day, as a sea of people milled about, one guard's sharp gaze caught a flicker of unease. A man in the crowd, muttering to himself, his eyes wild and restless. While tourists laughed and snapped pictures less than 50 feet away, the guard locked onto him, his body motionless but his mind racing, attuned to every subtle shift in energy, every potential threat. He didn't flinch, didn't betray a hint of concern. His training had taught him to watch and wait, to read the scene with cold precision. The man's odd behavior escalated in a heartbeat. Suddenly, he was sprinting toward the gates, shoving through the crowd with terrifying intent. Screams erupted, but the guard remained a pillar of calm amid the storm. For hours, he'd stood there, enduring the taunts of passers-by, the provocations of selfie-stick-wielding visitors, never once breaking his stance. Because he wasn't just a figurehead, he was the last line of defense. As the madman closed in, the guard's readiness snapped into focus. One earth-shaking step forward, his boot hitting the pavement with purpose, his rifle shifting ever so slightly. To the untrained eye, it was a minor adjustment, but to those who understood military discipline, it was a warning, a signal that this soldier was primed to act. He'd been forged for moments like this, not through theatrics, but through an unyielding commitment to duty. His senses sharpened to detect danger where others saw only routine. In that electrified second, as the crowd held its breath, the Royal Guard's discipline and readiness stood poised to meet the chaos head-on, proving he was far more than a ceremonial relic. The air around Buckingham Palace thickened with tension as the mysterious man, wild-eyed and snarling, barreled toward the gates, his feet pounding the pavement with reckless fury. Tourists scattered in a frenzy. Screams pierced the afternoon calm. A child stroller toppled, and an elderly couple froze in terror, while security fumbled, too slow to stem the rising panic. The gap between the charging madman and the palace shrank in breathless seconds. 30 feet? 20? 10. His hands jerked at his sides, reaching for something. Perhaps a weapon. Perhaps nothing. But his intent was clear enough to send hearts racing. Amid this chaos stood one royal guard, a solitary figure between the unstoppable force and the historic gates he was sworn to protect. For hours, he'd been a statue, his polished rifle gleaming in the sun, his face unreadable beneath the iconic bearskin hat. But now, the moment demanded more than stillness. With the crowd holding its breath, he took one deliberate step forward, his boots slamming down with a thud that echoed like thunder. His rifle shifted, not raised to fire, but wielded with surgical precision, an extension of his disciplined frame. The madman didn't slow, didn't heed the warning in that single steely gaze. Their eyes locked for a fleeting second, wildness meeting unshakable resolve. Then, in a flash, the guard struck. The butt of his rifle swung up and forward, connecting with the man's chest in a brutal, perfect blow. The force was instantaneous. Air ripped from the man's lungs, his body jerking violently as his momentum died. His feet left the ground, and he crashed backward onto the pavement with a sickening thud, sprawled out 5 feet from where he'd been stopped cold. The crowd gasped as one, a collective exhale of shock and relief, phones trembling in hands desperate to capture the moment. This was no wild swing, but a calculated act of military efficiency, the culmination of years of training distilled into one decisive confrontation. The guard didn't hesitate, didn't flinch. He neutralized the threat with the calm precision of a soldier who'd faced chaos before, even if only in practice. In that electrified instant, London witnessed a clash of disorder and duty won, leaving an indelible mark on all who saw it. As the dust settled outside Buckingham Palace, the echoes of the madman's charge faded into a stunned silence, broken only by the shallow gasps of the crumpled figure sprawled on the pavement. Just moments before, chaos had reigned. Tourists screaming, phones flailing, security scrambling as the man's reckless sprint threatened the palace gates. But now, with one swift strike from the Royal Guard's rifle butt, the threat was gone, his body flipped backward and neutralized in an instant. The crowd, still reeling, watched as police surged forward, their shouts of "Stay down!" cutting through the air as they pinned the man's wrists and legs, cuffing him with practiced urgency. He twitched weakly, groaning from the brutal impact, his chest heaving, but the fight had left him. Whatever he'd planned ended the second he met the guard's unyielding resolve. And then, as quickly as the storm had erupted, order crept back in. The Royal Guard, The lone figure who turned the tide took a single step back to his post. His boots settled into place, his rifle lowered to its original stance, and his face remained a mask of cold indifference, untouched by the adrenaline still pulsing through the crowd. To him, it was as if nothing had happened, a seamless return to the stillness that defined his duty. Tourists clutched their chests, whispering, "Oh my God!" Or did he just, while a child's clear voice rang out, "He stopped him!" Police dragged the would-be intruder away, radios crackling with reports, and the scene shifted from a near disaster to a controlled aftermath. The palace gates stood as firm as ever, the Union Jack swaying lazily above, and the guards' reset posture signaled that the fortress of tradition remained unshaken. For those watching, it was surreal. Hundreds had witnessed a legend born in one move, yet within minutes the bustle of tourism resumed, as if the clash had been a fleeting ripple on the surface of a deep, steady lake. The guards' calm restoration of order didn't just end the threat, it reaffirmed the palace's enduring strength, proving that even in the face of sudden chaos, discipline could prevail, leaving the world to marvel at a soldier who acted, then stood tall once more. The moment the royal guard's rifle butt slammed into the charging madman's chest, sending him crashing to the pavement outside Buckingham Palace, the crowd's stunned silence shattered into a wave of gasps and murmurs. Tourists, still trembling from the sudden chaos, instinctively yanked their phones into the air, fingers fumbling to zoom in on the sprawled figure and the guard who'd stopped him cold. A woman near the front clutched her chest, whispering, "Oh my God," while a man muttered, "Did he just take him out with one move?" A child's voice cut through, small but clear. "He stopped him." The adrenaline surged as people replayed the scene in their minds, some too shocked to speak, others already narrating it to friends. Phones shook in shaky hands, but the footage was gold. Within minutes, 15-second clips hit Twitter, captioned with awe like, "Holy crap, the Royal Guard just dropped this guy." TikTok followed, the algorithm feasting on the drama as edits with slow-motion replays and dramatic music racked up millions of views in under an hour. By the time police hauled the groaning intruder away, the internet had crowned a new legend, videos exploding to 10 million views, headlines screaming, "Royal Guard takes down intruder in one move." The public reaction split fast. Some hailed the guard as a hero, a symbol of grit and duty, their respect deepened by his calm precision. Others, predictably, questioned if the force was too much, debating in comment sections worldwide. But those who'd been there, close enough to feel the panic, to see the man's wild charge, knew it wasn't a prank gone wrong. It was a threat stopped in its tracks. The viral impact was unstoppable. Tourists who'd captured it became instant storytellers, their shaky footage looping on screens from London to Los Angeles. Buckingham Palace returned to its usual rhythm, but the world couldn't look away. What started as a fleeting moment of chaos morphed into a global sensation, proving the guards were more than statues, and giving everyone a front-row seat to a clash of disorder and discipline that sparked awe, debate, and a flood of shares across every platform imaginable. In the wake of the electrifying clash outside Buckingham Palace, where a royal guard stopped a charging madman with one brutal strike, the soldier emerged as more than just a man in a uniform. He became a legend. As the stunned crowd watched him return to his post, rifle lowered and face blank, his indifference to the chaos he'd just quelled spoke louder than words. He'd stood there for hours, a silent fixture tourists often mocked or ignored. Yet, in a heartbeat, he'd transformed into a force of history. Unshakable, unstoppable, a living testament to the King's Guard's true power. The moment his boot hit the pavement and his rifle swung with lethal precision, he shattered every misconception that these guards were mere ceremonial relics. Hundreds witnessed it. The madman's wild sprint halted, his body crumpling 5 feet back, and the guard resetting as if it were just another day on duty. A child's awed whisper, "Mom, he protected the palace," echoed what the world soon felt this was no ordinary soldier. As videos raced across Twitter and TikTok, racking up millions of views, the internet crowned him a hero, with captions like, "You thought they were just for show?" His legend grew not from bravado, but from quiet resolve. Years of training distilled into one unflinching act. To the world, it was an unbelievable spectacle, a story to replay and debate. To him, it was simply his job, executed without hesitation or fanfare. That steely calm, that effortless return to stillness made him larger than life, a figure who didn't just stop a threat but redefined what the Royal Guard stood for. In that single, unforgettable moment, he became a symbol of duty and strength, etched into London's memory and the global consciousness as a legend born from discipline. The dramatic showdown outside Buckingham Palace, where a royal guard felled a charging madman with one precise strike, left more than just a viral video. It delivered a powerful lesson in duty and strength. For years, the guard had stood in the shadow of the palace gates, enduring tourists' taunts and the monotony of his post, his stillness masking a resilience forged through relentless training. That afternoon, as chaos erupted and a wild-eyed man sprinted toward the palace, the guard's moment arrived, not with fanfare, but with the quiet force of someone who knew his purpose. His single step forward, the thud of his boot, and the swift swing of his rifle butt weren't just a reaction. They were the culmination of discipline honed to perfection, a reminder that he was the last line of defense. When the man crashed to the pavement, stopped 5 feet short of his goal, the crowd saw it. This wasn't a statue, but a soldier whose strength lay in his readiness to act without hesitation. As police swarmed and order returned, the guard's calm reset to his post drove the lesson home. Duty isn't loud or showy. It's steadfast, unyielding, and effective. A boy's whisper to his mother, "He protected the palace," captured the awe that rippled through witnesses and millions online, where videos exploded with views and respect. This wasn't about brute force, but about the power of preparation meeting a moment of need. The world, so quick to see the guards as relics, learned they were guardians, trained not just to stand, but to defend. In that fleeting clash, the guards' actions spoke of a strength rooted in tradition and a duty that never wavered, leaving an indelible mark on London and a story that inspired reflection on what it truly means to stand ready. As we age, life often feels unpredictable, much like that chaotic moment outside Buckingham Palace when a royal guard faced a sudden threat. His story offers us timeless lessons. First, steadfastness matters. Years of standing firm, unshaken by distractions, prepared him to act when it counted. For us, this means holding steady through life's storms, trusting the resilience we've built over decades. Second, readiness isn't loud. It's quiet strength, like the guard's calm step forward. We don't need to shout our worth. Our experience, our wisdom, is our rifle, ready when needed. Finally, duty isn't about glory. It's about doing what's right, even unnoticed. The guard didn't seek praise, just returned to his post. In our lives, whether caring for family or supporting a friend, it's the small, steady acts that protect what matters. At 50, 60, or beyond, we're not statues of the past. We're guardians of our own legacies. So, stand tall, stay prepared, and know your strength lies in the quiet resolve you've earned. That's a legacy worth living, one step at a time.